Welcome to Tuesday. It's the 22nd of June, 2021. This day weather podcast is going to talk about some heat. Then we're going to cool off with some rain chances. In fact, folks, there's a very interesting pattern that looks to be evolving in the next week or two that is somewhat optimistic for parts of the Central High Plains and parts of the Rockies in terms of not being as hot and having better rain chances. There's some bad news, though, for some parts of the West. We'll talk about that here in a minute. High pressure is going to rebuild over the Intermountain West today and tomorrow, so the heat is on again. Temperatures will rise and get hot in all areas for today and for Wednesday, but cooler weather with some showers and thunderstorms come Thursday through Saturday. In fact, a pattern not unlike what came in this past weekend, where we get a front, we get some showers and thunderstorms, and we cool off quite a bit. Well, that's going to happen again. Retrograding high pressure will move the heat to the far western United States. So what do I mean by retrograding high pressure? Basically, that means, you think about most weather systems, they move west to east, which they do, but sometimes in the summer season, you can get what we call a retrograding pattern where the pressure systems move against the grain. So we're going to show you that here in a minute, and that's why we're going to show the far western United States is going to suffer the most. And that's going to be California and the Pacific Northwest. I mean, they are going to bake. This will be making the news probably by the weekend. If not by then, by early next week, you are going to see some really, really hot weather in the Pacific Northwest and California this weekend and next week. Don't forget the North Park Never Summer Rodeo is coming up this upcoming weekend, June 25th through the 27th. The weather's always good in Walden for this time of year. You know, it's 8,000 feet and more plus in Walden, so it's always a cool place to go if you want to escape the heat. Now let's take a look at what's going to be developing over the next couple of days. This is the forecasted upper level wind pattern for Wednesday. High pressure will be centered right here. So that means that clockwise flow brings the desert heat right into the region. So that's why it's going to get hot again. But we've got this little low right here that's going to throw a little bit of moisture and instability up into here. But for the most part, today and tomorrow, this is the pattern. But I want to show you what evolves really quickly. I want to show you a couple of things before we go to the next map. We've got actually a little bit of a high pressure area here and this little low pressure, a weak one, kind of interrupting the pattern. But what's going to happen is this plus this is going to happen, and it's going to go west, and they're going to merge. And as we go forward, we start to see this by Friday. By Friday, we start to see the center of high pressure more up here. Winds aloft now by Thursday and Friday are from the northwest. No longer desert air by Thursday and Friday, but air coming up out of west central Canada. So that's going to cool things off. That's going to bring showers and thunderstorms. And the high pressure ridge down here is suppressed. But I want to watch, and you're going to want to watch here in the next couple of maps to show you where these get connected. And this is why it's going to spell very bad news for the West Coast and the Pacific Northwest. As we go forward, that's going to bring about some big changes with temperature. Now, this is the forecasted temperature map for Friday afternoon. Look at these temperatures. Friday afternoon across the Intermountain West. Look at that. Even Colorado's western slope, 70s, lower 80s, even some 60s. I mean, really very pleasant temperatures here behind the front on Friday. So, yeah, it's going to be hot today and tomorrow, but it's only a 2-day little bit of a heat wave. And you can see the very warm temperatures in the Pacific Northwest, the desert states through the central valleys of California, but this is nothing. You'll see the maps here in a moment. This is what happens by Saturday. We see the connection between the high here and the high up here, and they're going to merge. And what's going to happen is you're going to get a big ridge that's going to go all the way up through British Columbia, causing a big amplification in the pattern. So along and east of the divide, notice where the winds are coming from, the north. And the heat then gets concentrated in the western Great Basin, the Pacific Northwest, and California. While along and east of the divide, the air is going to be, let's say, a lot more moderate. This is good news because this is going to bring better chances for showers and thunderstorms. The many areas of Wyoming, South Dakota, parts of North Dakota, Colorado. Look at the mountains of Wyoming and Colorado, the Bighorns, the Black Hills, the Uintas, even the Wasatch Front. You know, this is nothing extraordinary, but this is certainly the better the chances of rain that we've seen in a while in many of those areas. So with the cooler weather, will be some showers and thunderstorms developing in many areas that need it. And if you look at the latest drought monitor, you can still see the northern plains, northeastern areas of Wyoming here. Had a podcast listener report only 0.07 inches near Pine Haven, Wyoming for the month of June so far, an extremely low amount since the beginning of the year. And you can see the Great Basin in the desert states. And this right here, this is the area that is really going to be baking, and you're going to see drought conditions get worse. And the drought conditions up here are also going to be getting worse as well. As we go forward, this is Wednesday of next week. High pressure remains more centered over Idaho and the Pacific Northwest. This is where the real heat will be, very, very warm. But the north winds aloft next week will continue along and east of the Continental Divide. So instead of the high pressure here pumping in the desert heat gets concentrated right here. So the Pacific Northwest and western areas of the United States are going to kind of suffer through what we did in early to mid-June. This is all the way out to the 4th of July weekend. The high pressure does back up a little bit along the west coast, and what that will do is allow that northwest flow to maybe get a little bit further to the west. Maybe by the 4th of July weekend, some relief from the heat here. And along and east of the divide, that's a cooler pattern. That's not a hot one for the summer season. Not a hot one at all. And it's also a better opportunity to bring showers and thunderstorms. And this is by Sunday. Sunday, you can see very modest temperatures. I mean, these are high temperatures for Sunday along many areas of the Central High Plains and Rockies. But look at the heat in the Pacific Northwest, the desert Southwest. That's right under that high pressure ridge that's right there. But it actually gets worse. If we were to step forward to Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, look at this. There's 120 forecasted. Now, whether or not that happens, I don't know. Probably not. But look at the Snake River Valley of Idaho, into eastern Washington, eastern Oregon, temperatures into the Central Valley areas of California. Look at Nevada. Look at the desert states. But you can see west of the Wasatch is really where the heat is. But also notice there is a tongue of heat that goes across Montana and into North Dakota and may get parts of northern areas of Wyoming. And that'll be something that we need to watch. But look at this area right here early next week. Look at those temperatures. I mean, very modest. I mean, really not hot at all as we leave early June and early July. So that'll be an area where there won't be as much heat. And if you were to look at the temperature anomalies, this is by next Wednesday. And Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, the biggest temperature anomalies, the hottest right here is closest to the coolest right here, underneath that ridge of high pressure. So we're going to see a westward shift of the heat wave we had in early June to the west coast and the Pacific Northwest. If you were to add up the next 10 days, this goes through July 1st. Notice the blue here along the front range of Colorado, southeastern Wyoming, into the plains and southeastern United States. Actually, temperatures over the next 10 days on the whole will be close to average or a little below average in those areas. But you can see this arch of heat that goes like this from the far western United States and across the northern tier. You know, and I think this is the trend that will carry forward into July. Those are the areas I just outlined relative to average that are going to be the hottest. Looking out further, this is for the time frame just past the 4th of July weekend. Notice the high pressure is more in the eastern Pacific there, and also the high pressure is more centered in the south central United States. The clockwise flow here, that's going to bring subtropical moisture in. And you see this little thing right here that doesn't look like much, but that's a little bit of a low. And, you know, this is really good news because I do think this is going to bring that pipeline of subtropical moisture in around and after that 4th of July time frame and get that early season monsoon going better than it did last year. And you can see this. This is 15 days out, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. But look at all the red in Mexico, and you're starting to see more rain and more thunderstorm activity here right as we get into early July. So that's good news, especially for the mountains of Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, and even parched areas of Utah may get some relief as well. But look at right here. So this is where I think the drought conditions are going to worsen here with that arch going across Montana and into North Dakota in the northern and northwest Corn Belt. If you were to look at the new 30-day outlook from the European model, this goes through July 23rd. Notice this. Look at this, folks. Look at the green coming up out of the southwestern United States. This is basically showing that the monsoon moisture fetch is getting started. But notice this arch of dryness from the Pacific Northwest across the northern plains. And notice we've got a dividing line kind of right here between drier conditions where the monsoon may not get in and the monsoon more down here. Hopefully we can punch this more northeast into this area here. We'll just have to see. But this is encouraging right here, because if that does develop, some of that moisture will sort of work its way a little bit more north than maybe the model is showing. But that is encouraging, and you can see how wet the central and eastern areas of the United States will be as we go into the month of July.